Welcome to the Drum Social Podcast with Alex Morse and Ben Bell.
Welcome to the Drum Social Podcast. Here we are again at Rusty's Drums. We've been invited back. We're with the main man himself, the big cheese, the owner, the governor, Mark Jeffs.
Yeah.
How you doing? You all right?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, great. What a time this is.
I'm having a bit of difficulty concentrating because it is insane. This room is mad.
It's a bit
Everywhere
of a sensory overload, isn't it?
It is. I'm trying to settle in, but I feel like a dog on fireworks night. Just left in the garden to panic.
Also, before we get into drums, before we started recording, it was mentioned about this sofa being on James Bond.
Yes, yeah, the very famous sofa.
Can we go into this? Because
it was a weird situation. I found it on Marketplace. When I knew I was moving in here, I was looking. The first things I bought, there's no till in the shop. It's a sofa, it's a coffee machine, it's a hang. It's the social side of things. And I found the sofa with a antiques dealer not far from here, but I hadn't got the keys, hadn't signed the lease, and it was kind of 3 weeks off, and I just poo-pooed it, kind of pushed it to one side. Went back to him once I got the keys, and I've sold it. I'm sorry, it's gone. The metal fabricator in the unit next door who helped me build everything in here, but we put all the mezzanine in, put all the displays in. I said to him I wanted to get a Chesterfield. He went, "Oh, my friend's just bought one, but he's too short to sit on it. The cushions are so deep, his legs are kind of dangling and he can't sit on it properly." So I went round to see him, and he's only 20 minutes away from here. Went round to see him, and I said, "Oh, I was looking at one of those," and the guy selling it, and I'll never forget his name, Richard Crooks. Brilliant name for an antiques dealer.
Or a Bond villain.
Or a Bond villain. And he said, "Oh, that's where I bought that one from." So it was the same sofa that I tried to buy 3 weeks beforehand. He ended up with, and I ended up picking up from him. But he had about 23, 24 of these that were all in one of the Daniel Craig movies. I think it's a new sofa that's been made to look sort of distressed and old, which is what I wanted. But yeah, it came from a Bond movie.
Insane.
It is mental.
And it just gets used and abused here, upended so I can take photos where you were sitting and, no care taken at all with it.
Do we go straight into the shop?
Yeah, otherwise I'm just going to ask questions about whether
Every drum.
late at night do you dress as James Bond and sit on it?
Not just late at night, yeah, early in the morning as well, midday, whenever it takes my move.
Just here stroking a snare drum. But yeah, we obviously need to, I think, immediately and with speed and haste, talk about the stock in the shop.
There's a few drums in here.
How do you even
with the
collect
shoehorn?
this many drums?
It's got to be the largest collection of vintage drums in UK, Europe.
I would definitely say UK, probably, yeah, one of the biggest in Europe as well. There's not many stores that do this sort of thing. And even travelling across America and guys that I know that have toured across America, and my friend Tim was saying, there's nothing like it, which is scary. I'm either doing something really right or something really, really wrong, and I don't know which yet.
Did you intend to do that when you started? Did you mean to create...
The idea was always to have a choice. Having worked in a drum shop and been into vintage drums, and it's the same, I'm into the car market as well, into the car scene. You take pride in owning something and finding something and sourcing something for yourself. And if you buy a vintage kit and you turn up on a jam night and everyone goes, "Oh, that belonged to Dave and it was Bill's and he did this and he bought it for that."
Yeah.
You suddenly become really deflated that you're trying to create your sound. You're trying to make it this very personal thing for you, and it's much more special to have a choice. So if even Acrylites, it's a bog standard aluminium drum. I've got 42 in stock at the minute. So there's little discrepancies, little changes between the finish on them, the badges. There are little things, little quirks.
Yeah.
And if you get to choose your own one rather than there being one on the shelf that you can have, that was the whole idea of the business.
Yeah.
That was the premise behind
That's
it.
amazing.
And it's just grown to this.
It's
and just
crazy.
keeps growing.
Do you want to go into your gift?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, right. We're coming back to stock. We're going to take a little quick break to gift Mark a gift.
Ooh.
Right down next to you, in a bag with stars on, because you are the king of vintage drums. You're the star of vintage drums. You are the light of Bethlehem in the world of drums.
Ah, very good. I like that.
It's, what is it?
It's a 69 Mustang.
Which I believe you have a
I have. I
1969.
haven't got a fastback. I'm not that rich, but I have got a 69
Now you
Mustang.
have.
Yeah, which is how this whole thing started out as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the whole business started. I was working in a drum shop, gigging, teaching, doing as many jam nights, trying to be discovered as a drummer, and almost burnt out. Got to the point where I just had enough of drumming. And my mum, bless her, my dad had passed away. My mum said, "You need something for your mental health. You need to do something." So I went and bought a Mustang. I went looking for a 50s pickup truck and bought a 69 Mustang off a guy on eBay. He'd bought it off an American fighter pilot who she'd shipped it over here. And that became my focus for a couple of years. Kind of dropped a lot of the endless jam nights, going
Yeah.
to Ronnie Scott's and all that sort of stuff, and just focused on building this car. And the guys that I was using to buy parts from were shipping containers in from America. And became very friendly with them and said, can I stick some drums in and see what happens? I had an old school buddy that had moved out to Jacksonville in Florida and was working in a studio out there for a church, and it's like picking up all these crazy drums, and we just stuck some boxes in the container.
Yeah.
So it's the Mustang that started the whole thing.
Oh, get in.
It's in.
Yeah. So there we are. That's a very apt gift. Thank you very
Well,
much for
that's
that.
right. It's because once I visited your previous Rusty Drums shop, which was
yes.
in your home,
Yeah,
and there was a garage.
that's
You
right.
were like, there's more drums in there, and you pointed into a window, and there was a sheet covering a car. And for maybe the first time in a long time, I was like, what's under the drums? And you were like, oh, that's a Mustang. And I was like, well, marry me now, Mark.
Yeah, it was like the most expensive car, the
Yeah.
drum shelf you could have,
Yeah.
really. Yeah, yeah.
It was mad that you were just leaving boxed kits just on top of this.
Yeah, I ended up building shelves across that and the other car that were
Yeah.
in the car park. The garage was full of drums. They were just everywhere. Yeah.
Do you still have the Mustang?
Yeah, I've still got it, yeah.
Fantastic.
It did about 20 miles last year. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Expensive ones, I
Yeah,
imagine.
of course, yes. Miles per gallon rather than miles per gallon, but it's all good fun.
Right, back to the stock. I'm interested to know, because firstly, and this is going to be a bit of a muddle of words, but that's what I do, guys. That's my thing. Is I find it so interesting, and we had this with Tim. He can look at a kit and he can tell you from the badges and the hoops and the finishes where it is, what it come from, who built it. I
Yeah.
find that like encyclopedia of drum like kits and building and the legend of all of that incredible that you can hold it in your head. I've not got much in my head.
Well, there's nothing else in my head, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, I can't, at my age, I can't get any new information
Yeah.
in there. I can't listen to new music.
Cars and drums is good though.
Cars and drums, that's all I've
Yeah.
got. That's pretty much it, yeah.
But beyond everything that's in here, what would you say is either the most rare item or the highest priced item for good reason, and what reasons are they?
There's a few bits. I've got one of Keith Moon's kits here, which isn't actually in here at the minute. It's,
Yeah.
it's cased up around the back, but that is his super
That is
classic
mental.
kit that he used in the early days of the high numbers before they became the Who, and then like their first television shows with Ready Steady Go. That's the kit, and that's sitting in and settlable on the cases in one of the back rooms.
That is mental.
So that's kind of cool. And I've got one of his snares on the back shelf
Mm-hmm.
over there as well, which they were Gretsch snares that were made especially for him.
Yeah.
So I've got one of those. So there's some unusual stuff, some rare stuff. I've had a few sort of celebrity kits in. I've got the Dire Straits gongs on the front wall as you walk in
Right,
as well.
incredible.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
From the 84, the two gongs out there from the 1984 Brother in Arms World Tour.
I've got that
Stage
song
left and
title
stage
tattooed
right.
on the back of my neck.
Well, there they are. You've got a pair of gongs to go with it now.
Oh my god! Load the boot up.
That's it. We're done.
Ridiculous, right? Cut. That's mad. When you get those items before they come to you, does someone tell you, "Look, I've got this Keith Moon kit"?
Well, that
Is
was
it something
that
you'd
was
be
a
interested?
really random one. This guy rang me up. My mate's dad's just died, and he's got one of Keith Moon's kits. So instantly you go Premier. I'm not really that bothered because
Yeah.
I like the American drums. That's what I'm known for. Then he said it's a Ludwig, and it's like, and I had to go and do some research on it. But when they brought it in, it had been into Bonham's auction in about 2014. But the guy that owned it had owned it since 1969 and didn't want to sell it. The other guy that he'd bought it off, they both worked at Marshall's music store together. They were friends with Keith Moon. He was pushing him to sell it at auction. I mean, at the time, it was up at about $25,000-$30,000. So this guy was trying to push him to get some commission. And when he decided he didn't want to sell it, it went back into its cases and he gigged it to the point where he passed away. And then the family were looking for somewhere other than an auction to put it to sell it, and that's when they got in contact. So I've got a big folder full of all the provenance with it, all the history with it, because as I said to them, otherwise it's a £2,000 kit.
Yeah.
It's a super classic with a Rogers mount on it. It's
Yeah.
like you've devalued it because of that, but because of the history, and it was Keith Moon that put that on there, it's this super rare, bonkers item
That is
that's going to
mental.
command a serious price tag at some
Yeah.
point, hopefully. And not just sit in the back room.
I haven't got Keith Moon tattooed on me.
No, well, you're safe then.
but I'm only 33. Are there any items in the shop that you particularly love and maybe don't want to see leave, or have come?
There's been a few. And
You cuddle at night in bed, take home and
Well,
my precious.
of course, yeah. Most of them. Just cycle it round.
As
you
a
know.
calendar.
Yeah, that's it. Now, there are certain things when you sell them, you know you're never going to see another one, or
Yeah.
there's a very rare chance that you'll see another one. But the nature of what I do, I've chatted with some of the American drum shop owners, and they're like, "What's in your personal collection?" It's like, I haven't got one. This is it. And you've got to keep that kind of detached thing that I could be selling wet fish on a market, or I could be, as much as I'm passionate about the drums and exciting to have them here, they need to go to people to play them.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of big time collectors that buy from me, And what's interesting, one of them's not a professional player, and if he knows someone else is sniffing around a set or a snare drum that he's really interested in, but they're going to play it professionally, he always backs away. So I think, my mindset is I own it while it's here. I do little demo videos occasionally if people are really unlucky and want to hear me play the drums. Occasionally I'll take something out on a gig, but there's no point in me keeping a 1940s Radio King kit to go and play dad rock down the wagon and horses on a Friday night.
Yeah.
For the level of where my playing is, there's no point in me having this massive collection of drums. It'd be lovely if I was out recording and doing stuff to just pull stuff out as and when I wanted, but
it's nice that you're like that with it. Obviously, everyone collects like trainers nowadays, but they go on a shelf, and that is it. It's just to be looked at. But the fact you like want them,
or when people come in, it's, oh, do you mind if I play this? It's like, I don't get a chance to sit and play these drums for myself because I'm too busy doing tax returns and answering emails about a left-hand threaded screw for a 1940s whatever. So when other people get to play them, I get to hear the drums and I get to understand what it's all about as well. So it's great for that side of things.
I think you would go mad if you didn't have that, if you couldn't make that disconnect.
Yeah.
You'd probably be bitter at all your customers.
Of course you would, yeah.
You'd be like, thank you for the money, but I wanted it.
And there are occasions where you go, do I really, am I ever going to see this again? Do I really want to sell it? I've had some really rare uncatalogued finish kits and snare drums that have come through. You're like, once that's gone, although it's such a small world with the drum collectors, with these sort of guys as well, you kind of know where they are, and if the worst happened, I could buy it back, or if got to that point of madness where I wanted to keep stuff, it is there and available still. And
the great thing, I suppose, is the lineage of that kit being sold. It was sold through your shop, and that's really the point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You're the one that is able to give these rare items.
I'm the
to customers.
facilitator. Yeah. So I'm the custodian of this stuff till it goes on to the next person, and then it continues its amazing journey.
I think it's the same mindset that people that work at Battersea Dog Home have, because you can't have all the dogs.
No, you can't. No,
you've got Homer, man. You can feed them while they're there.
I like that.
Oh, come on.
I do like that.
Toto needs a home, mate. She can't stay with you. Alex is worried. And the fishmonger. Imagine a fishmonger having this much passion about fish.
And keeping them all.
Yeah.
That would stink. That would really stink. Yeah.
Why is he shouting, Keith? Me?
This one's from '69. That's an old fish.
If we could move on to the branding for it, because obviously you've got all the like cool logos. There's the van, which I'm sure, I don't know if you want to explain the van.
Please explain the van, and because I think we'd seen it at the UK Drum Show before you had the van, or one year the van wasn't there.
I did the first year that I did the UK Drum Show up in Manchester. I did it without the van and tried to recreate my infamous backdrop out of bits of shiplap and stuff there. And I think it was the year after. It was the year after I got the van, and Neil, the organizer, said, "Don't forget, it's moved from Manchester to Liverpool." I said, "Oh, it's going to cost me a fortune in fuel." He went, "Well, no, it's only 10 miles down the road, or whatever it was." I said, "Yeah, but in my van." And he went, "Put it on the booth." I was like, this is a random phone call. I was like, "What do you mean, put it on the booth?" He goes, "I love," and Neil's one of those guys, he bought a T-shirt every year. So he's the organizer of the drum show, but he loved my logo so much, he bought a T-shirt every year of the show. He said, "It'd be so good to have that van as the backdrop on the booth." I was like, "Don't have to pay for parking. The only thing I've got to worry about is how much oil is going to leak on the conference room floor and that side of things." And it's just one of those things that everyone recognises the van. Yeah. When I bought it from, because with the shipping of stuff from America, I found it on American eBay. It was with a big American dealer that got like 3 different lots across America. It was a £6,500 van delivered.
Great.
So I drove down to Southampton, picked it up and drove it home with a set of, a jerry can and some screwdrivers, and literally just got in it with some tray plates and drove it home from Southampton.
You're like Mad Max. It's brilliant.
It is.
What do you mean? Jerry can? Yeah. Oh, have you got any for sale? I want one.
Yeah, because if anyone's like not been to the drum show, every brand just has their like little lemonade stand, and then you're just there with the van.
Just rock in with the van.
Do you drive out past these people as well, just mugging them off?
The amount of gurning you get at the end of the show when we're loaded up and we're out of there 10 minutes after the end of the show, in a cloud of blue smoke. Obviously, there's like plumes of
flicking off a big one to Roland.
Of course, as we drive through their booth. But yeah, that was all Neil's idea to have it on booth, and it's just become this thing that just a rolling thing. But when I bought the van, everyone's like, "Brown?" I was like, "Just trust me. As soon as that logo goes on, because of the colours on it." But the logo, it was a happy accident. I put a post up, and I'd traded for about 9 years without a logo. Had a couple of rudimentary websites, had someone put a very basic thing on there, And I put a post out, any of my friends do anything with graphic design? And a guy called Chris Young, he came back to me and said, well, I work in graphic design. What sort of thing do you want? I said, I want it to look like it could be on the side of a 50s pickup truck. Because, you know, at some point I am going to own one. I've got an 80s one at the minute, but I will have a 50s one at some point. And he just came up with that. And it just straight away, it's like, that is the perfect logo. It's so good. And so, you know, T-shirt sales and stuff like that. And even the van. So my friend Zoe that runs Thick and Skin does the painted drum heads. I just asked her to paint the van. She did it on a 16-inch head, and I liked it so much I had it made into T-shirts, which everyone seems to love. But yeah, that's example A there.
It's great.
Her work's amazing as well.
She's incredible. And that was, you know, Zoe's an absolute sweetheart. She came to me for drum lessons because I still teach drums as well. And we were chatting one day, and she said, I like to paint, but canvases are so expensive. And me being me, I went, I've got a load of old drum heads. Why don't you have a few? And if you're good, we could maybe sell some. Ash Soane's the first person that commissioned one as soon as she turned up at the drum show. And it's like, she's done George Ezra's world tour head and all sorts of stuff. She's done a head for Timbo, sent that over to America.
So you were part of the...
She blamed me for everything, yeah. Which,
of the stress of the, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Turn your passion into a career and hate every second of it. Yeah, it's all my fault, yeah.
Lock yourself in a cage of terror with your beloved art.
Yeah. Yeah, torture yourself even more. Yeah, thanks,
Wrestle
Mark.
the alligator of creativity. But we've all got to do that, yeah, guys. Get out there and wrestle. That's amazing. Yeah. How many have you got? Any other skins in here? Because there's a few skins around.
There's a few on the front wall as we come in. They were just ones that Zoe painted over time for herself, just to have. But yeah, so hopefully she'll do a few more at some point.
Yeah, it's great.
But she's a busy girl.
I am chuffed to know that the van was driven into the drum show as well. Because the first year we got there, I was like, I don't know, is there an engine in that van? Is it just like a shell and they've just brought it in as a thing?
Yeah, just a complete sham, yeah.
But it's amazing.
It's a Prius underneath.
So there was a day in your life where you showed up to the docks and in a container was that van and maybe some drums with it?
No, so that went, what they call it, roll on, roll off. So that literally went on a big transatlantic ferry. And I turned up at Southampton with all the paperwork and they drove it round the corner and just parked it up in front of me and just went, there you go.
And you said, get out of it, Captain. Talking of classic cars, I'd like to play a game.
Okay.
There will be a theme tune called What's in the Boot. I'm going to give you 3 American classic cars.
Yeah.
I've got black and white images of them because of the laser printer that printed it. And you just tell me, if you were to open that boot, what vintage kit would be in the boot? What vintage kit matches the car?
What is in the boot? What's in that? What is in the boot? What's in that boot? I need to know or I will scream. Ah!
So the first one, of course, is a 1959 Mustang. I think the picture we've got here is a fastback, but maybe what's in the boot of your one?
Well, see, I did a photo ages ago. I dropped some stuff off with Paul Stewart from The Feeling. And he'd bought a couple of drums. And I took a photo of my Mustang on the drive with 3 Pro Racket snare bags in the back of it and tagged Dean from Pro Racket and sent it over to him. So it's got to be a set of Pro Racket bags with some tasty snares in. Probably classics like a 400, maybe a 402 in there.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the one for that, I think.
The second is...
I've just seen what the second one is.
Do you like this? Is this the truck you mean?
Yeah. That's what I want.
I was going to buy one of these when I was 18, and I didn't. But it had a Coca-Cola fridge in it and it was bright red. It's a 1950s Chevy truck.
Yeah, 3100, yeah.
What's in the back of that?
A few chickens.
And what are they tapping on?
What would be in the back of a 50? It would have to be an old Radio King or an old Leedy kit, probably just post-war, maybe a rolling bomber. Maybe some of that wood racking around the side of it to hold the chicken crates in. A rolling bomber was the wartime kits where they rationed essential metal use down to 10%. So if you were making things that weren't bullets or armour or tanks, you were only allowed to use 10% metal. So all the lugs, all the hoops are made out of wood. All the floor tom legs were like broom handles. Rolling bombers are a very famous kit.
Are they rare?
Yeah, hugely rare. Because the lugs were made out of rosewood, they would shatter and...
Have you ever had one come through the shop?
Had a snare, but I've never had a kit. I've got the Leedy version at the back there, the big dreadnought thing with the wooden hoops on it, which in my mind are better built drums anyway, the Leedy ones. But yeah, one of those, definitely in the back of that.
Fantastic. Well,
hopefully owned by me. That'd be my private collection. There you go.
The third one has got a bit of music connected to it. I've seen this car on a revolving platform at the Stax Museum. It's a 1972 gold-plated Cadillac. It's black and white, so you can't tell, but it's gold-plated. I don't need to explain that to
Gold-plated
you.
Cadillac. Okay.
It was Isaac Hayes. He owned it. I
Right.
think he bought it with the money he got from writing. Is it Shaft? Shaft. You know that show?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He bought it, and they have it in the museum. But it's a Cadillac, and it's gold plated.
Flashy.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, see, I had one of Gretsch's. They called it the most beautiful drum in the world. They did a gold-plated brass snare, and they only made a few of them. So it's got to be something like that, hasn't it? Or
Yeah.
maybe one of the Birdland kits with the gold hardware on it. That kind of Cadillac green with gold hardware. That'd be perfect. There we go. Yeah.
There you go. And you can't see it because it's black and white, but it is a green car. So you smashed it.
Oh,
You
there you
smashed
go.
it. Well, that was, and what we'll do is we're going to put loads of applause over that, like studio.
I think I
applause.
deserve it for that.
That
yeah.
was what's in the boot. It'll probably be like, what's in the boot? Slam that boot, you freak. I don't know.
Sure, it's got to be trunk though. They're all American.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
what's
for
in
God's
the
sake. Actually,
trunk?
right, restart everything. Cut it. So you go to the UK Drum Show, and we know that because
Yeah.
we go to the UK Drum Show. But you've also travelled out to, is it the Chicago Drum Show?
I try and get out there every year. Yeah.
That Tim frequents.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
a word,
So that's
frequents.
kind of that's like the crazy American
Yeah.
collectors thing. That's pretty much solely vintage. There are a few custom drum builders there. Ludwig have a booth and they sell off a load of one-off acrylites in like bright yellow or green sparkle and complete sort of custom shop stuff. But it's mostly guys with attics and basements full of vintage drums that trawl them all up there, and just a big old swap meet and trade out.
Yeah.
And it's a very cool place to be.
How long have you been going there for?
I went the first time. My lad was 4 months old, so 8 years I've been going. Apart from the 2 years of COVID, one where we weren't allowed to go at all, and one where they lifted the flight restrictions the weekend after the show. Drummer's timing, isn't it? That's perfect.
Are you like buying loads there, or is it just sort
It's the one time a year I get to be completely hands on with what I buy. So
Great.
I've got a business partner, a great friend of mine in America who used to work for CNC Drums, and when I was dealing with them, he kind of came on board with the vintage stuff. So my original business partner moved to Australia, and this guy kind of came in and filled his boots, and we buy a lot of stuff from a lot of dealers across America, a lot of traders across America, but it's the one time a year you get to hang out with these guys and actually spend some time with them, eat some wings and talk about drums.
Yeah.
So that's
perfect.
kind of that's my yearly pilgrimage out there. A few $1,000s in my back pocket ready to spend, and
Yeah.
just see what we can come back with.
How much equipment in here right now has come from a Chicago Drum Show?
So the last container drop, if you follow the social media stuff, you see the picture with the van with
Yeah,
just
it's great,
shed loads
yeah.
of drums. The last one was pretty much all from the Chicago show. So I think we did $50,000 worth of gear.
When you get there?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so the level of stock, the value of stock, the level of stock that we buy. And while I was there, I was chatting with one of the guys who then, I've got some drums I want to sell, and I think I bought 7 Super Classics and a Vista Light and a Mod Orange downbeat off of him. So there was another best part of $30,000 worth of gear from that. So that all ended up
Yeah.
landing at once.
Do you do, apart from that drum show, do you ever trade with other vintage drum shops?
I've done a bit. I've certainly bought from other drum shops. There's not many guys that the Americans have an interest in the weird English stuff. So like the English Rogers that they never had, Heyman kits, because that was a solely UK thing. They were built to kind of combat the popularity of Camco and Gretsch and Ludwig. So I've sent a few of those out to my business partner David, and he sold them. The first Heyman kit he had, he sold to John De Christopher, who used to work for Zildjian in A&R. So he's had a bit of success with that, but those guys aren't, apart from the mahogany Duraplastic Ringo poo swirl drums, they're not interested in our stuff that much, particularly, I don't think. So I do a bit of trading here and there, but I certainly buy from other stores, and there's a couple of guys that will hit me up before they stick stuff on Reverb, because the world's getting smaller, the internet's making the world smaller, and I'm very anti those sort of platforms personally. If I put a kit up and a store in America puts a kit up, the price that you see, I'm always going to be more expensive because of the import duties, because of all the handling costs and everything like that. And no one looks at that little italic shipping cost thing until it's too late, and you've had the argument about, people get their preset that you're suddenly expensive because your price is much higher than theirs. So I try and avoid that, and the guys that I buy from try and send me pictures and information on stuff before they hit any of those sort of platforms as well.
How do you like quality control what you're buying? Is there like a test that you have to do to be like, that's good enough for the shop?
It's a really interesting thing because I could fill this place with crazy collector's condition, never been played, never been touched stuff, and the price tags on it would be too high for most people. I could fill it with stuff with extra holes and been sat in a studio for 20 years and have used and abused, and you limit your market on that side of things. So there's a broad range of what people will buy, and it's just trying to find a level between, someone that doesn't mind a super classic, whether someone's moved the rail mount or changed the mount on it because all they can do is gig it or record it, against someone that wants that first year production of that colour on that badge with the original heads on it. So we're lucky that we get to kind of buy a bit of everything, really. But there is no quality control.
Yeah.
There never was any quality control from the factory.
I just feel like going off a picture online, if that's like 3 pictures of a snare, do you know if that's going to be all right? But if you trust your business
there's
partners,
occasions like that. One of the rarest snare drums I ever had in came from one picture of a kit, and the guy put this picture of a kit up, and it was a Gretsch kit. It had all been stripped, and I looked at the snare, and it had this little plaque on it. I knew straight away what it was. And I bought the kit off him for his asking price, knowing full well that the snare was a Gretsch DRB that was made for Keith Moon that had somehow ended up in Florida.
hustler.
It's very rare that you get these little breaks when you're dealing with dealers, when you're dealing with people that know what they've got. But he wasn't interested in it. He didn't know what it was. And I heard about, there are only about 4 of these known of in the UK and only about 10 ever made. So it's like, not everyone's going to know what that snare drum is. This is the point where a little bit of knowledge means I can not necessarily cash in, because that's not why I did it, but means I can obtain something really rare without paying through the nose, which means I can then sell it on to someone without them feeling like they're being ripped off as well.
That's why you are the governor, because
maybe
I have no idea how you can differentiate between certain years and qualities of. I'll just play a drum, and if it sounds really good, I like it.
That's the best way to be. 100% the best way to be. When you go into being book smart and you're reading up on serial numbers and all that sort of stuff, there was no hard, fast rule for any of this stuff. And the same about quality control. There wasn't you open up a brand new Mapex kit or a Tama kit now and you look at the quality of them. You open up an old Ludwig and some of them, the bearing edges are wonky. Some of them haven't, one drum will be painted inside, one won't. There'll be maple or mahogany. And they were producing drums and people were playing them. And there wasn't, certainly after the Second World War, I think there was that kind of make, do, amend kind of mentality. If you got something new and it wasn't quite right, you would cope with it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if there's one washer that's the wrong colour and or not as shiny zinc plated, people send kits back. But also the price difference now. You look at a brand new kit and you're looking $5,000 plus for anything half decent, aren't you? Really? And it's like, it's just crazy.
You mentioned them earlier, and I told Alex I was going to ask this, and I feel like he was like, "Don't ask it because you'll look like an idiot." But I have to just be honest.
Hey, we all look like idiots.
Yeah,
I do it on a daily basis.
On reality's terms.
This was nothing to do with the question. You just come downstairs and I said you look an idiot.
Wow.
Yeah, he called me at 6 a.m. So just remember. Anyway, you mentioned Camco. I hear it said a lot.
Yeah.
They're very sought after rare vintage kits. What are they? I don't know what they are, and I always nod when people say it, and I'm sick of lying. Be who you are. Help me.
George Way was an amazing innovator in the drum world. He worked for the American Rawhide Company, so he was selecting the calf heads that were used before the days of plastic heads. He designed a lot of hardware bits. He did bits for WFL. He designed a lot of stuff in conjunction with Rogers. He then started his own drum company, the George Way Drum Company. There was an amalgamation with an investor and they became the Camco Drum Company, and they are hands down, I won't use the word Rolls Royce, they are the Cadillac of American drums. They are the best built American drums out there. They predominantly used Keller shells. They weren't making their own shells, but he cut his own bearing edges. He had his lug design, which is obviously now recognised as the DW lug, because when the company went under, DW bought the rights to the hardware. Right. Tama bought the rights to the shell constructions and everything else. So you've got 2 big companies that came out of this company that he designed. But for me, they're just some of the best built drums. Yeah. And you say about keeping stuff that got away. I sold an incredible 2012-14 Champagne Sparkle, which is, it must be the beard colour, but it's my favourite finish. It must be something. It must be something with that. I had one with a matching snare that had barely been played, and I sold it to a guy just at the point where I took on the dealership thing with CNC drums, and it afforded me to buy a load of stock in from CNC, which obviously boosted the business, and I did very well out of that. I know where that kit is, and one day I may buy it back off of him if he'll ever part with it. But that's the one that got away from me. And I'd never gig it. I'd never take it out and use it. But it's just there's something so iconic about those lugs, those shells, that finish for me.
Yeah.
That Camco are pretty special.
That is excellent. And I think we've all learnt a lesson. I've learnt a lesson. I'm going to tell you what the lesson was. Allow change in your life, guys, because I didn't really know what they were, 2 minutes ago? And now I just want one. I've learned.
There we go.
I've asked and I've learnt.
Sucked in.
Always be a student. Right, well, that's great.
Every day's a school day.
Every day's a school day. I wasn't very good at school. Are there any worthwhile vintage drum shops you're aware of in Europe?
Last year, after the UK drum show, me and my American business partner went out to Hellstone in Sweden, and what an incredible shop. I mean, the stuff that he's got there, we ended up buying, for 14 years of trading, I've always been after a citrus mod kit. So Ludwig did those 3 crazy finishes, the psychedelic red, the mod orange, and the citrus mod. Had loads of psychedelic reds, had a couple of mod oranges that I've never had. It was my unicorn kit. I'd never had one. Walked into the store and there it was. I got a couple of guys that I knew wanted to buy it straight away that had obviously got the other kits as well. So it's like, it's a no-brainer, I'm going to have it. The old guy that runs the shop is a really lovely guy, and it's like, I'd like to buy this. Cool. Can you ship it? No. Okay. If I box it up and sort out the shipping, yeah, cool. Have you got any boxes? No. And there's, I don't know if you, on my social media, there is a video of us on a Saturday morning in the middle of his shop making a box, actually physically making the box and packing the drums, stripping them all down, put them all inside each other in the middle of his store. There was a vintage guitar show in town at the same time, and he's a guitar and drum shop. All these guitarists wandering around going, what these guys, the 2 guys just rolling these drums around on the floor, trying to make a box. It was like the worst episode of Blue Peter with bloody sticky tape and cardboard everywhere. But he's got some of the stuff he's got, even in the front of his shop, he's got rare finished Vista lights. He had 20s Black Beauties. It just got, for me, because he wasn't using the internet. He started to recently, but he's a guy in his 70s and he wasn't really that bothered. He's got a very good line of T-shirts, and he does drinks trays and all sorts of stuff. And he says he sells more of that than he ever does drums. And it's kind of become, the music shop's become a byproduct of this place to go, this kind of mecca of vintage gear. So I would say, yeah, that's probably the best place.
Yeah.
Hands down the best place, and definitely worth a pilgrimage out there.
Excellent.
And the meatballs are pretty good out there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. None of it's IKEA.
And the pop songs.
Pop songs, yeah.
It's interesting to think that shop didn't have the internet, and therefore the treasures that were within it had more value when you saw them.
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd have known it was there, it would have taken the kind of blow of seeing it away from you.
Yeah, the world is getting smaller because of the internet. I mean, I don't sell online. I'm very much... I state it on the website. It's not generic box shifting. I don't sell brand new stuff. I'm a Remo main dealer, but I don't sell heads online. I'm a Pro Racket and Hardcase main dealer, but I don't have any interest in the race to the bottom that seems to be general retail nowadays. I would rather sell you an acrylite that you've come and handpicked, or if, I sell a lot of stuff across Europe. I sell stuff back to America to guys over there, because I have this shop window where you can see, you click on the picture of the kit, there's a little demo video, there's 120 photos of a kit on average. Yeah. You can see every mark, every knock and every scratch. But I still encourage people to get in contact. You can't press a button and buy it on a Saturday night after 15 beers, because you are going to regret it. Not necessarily, but people...
you stopped and you stared in my eyes then, because I was going to say, thank God you don't.
Yeah,
exactly.
I stared at you.
The amount of people that have said it before, I sat for 3 hours looking at your site after I've been in the pub and I almost bought that.
Yeah.
So that's not the way to invest in this sort of stuff. This is a very...
It's a visceral thing.
You don't have to be sober. I mean, it's one of those things. But you want to get an idea. You want to be going into it with a clean head, and you want to kind of. Lots of people research what they're into, and it's really interesting with the photos that I take. The amount of people that come and go, it's nowhere near as bad as it looks in the photos. I can't even see that scratch you've obsessed over and taken 15 photos from different angles of. Mostly out of focus, but that's just my camera skills. Yeah. But then you take the guesswork out for people, and I think they appreciate that they get in contact and you say, I think it's really good, but there's this or there's that, and this is what you should expect from this kit still. There will be a little bit of surface rust. There may be this, there may be a little, deviation in the wrap somewhere, and you just make
the honesty of it.
Yeah. And you're sidestepping that online buyer's regret.
That 14-day, I can send it back because I don't like the colour when it turns up.
Because if they come here and they fall in love with it and they have a connection with it, they've intentionally driven here. They kind of want something through that action anyway.
Or even internationally, if they've back and forth 2 or 3 emails, you are at that point invested. You know you've had your mind, any doubts you've had in your mind have been put to rest, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be able to leave here without
A T-shirt?
wanting to come back. I will be buying a T-shirt. Another costume change, please. You run this incredible drum store that I'm massively grateful to have been invited to and be able to sit in. And I love drum shops, and I think it's great that this exists, because sometimes they shut down, and then that whole community around that drum shop can no longer have these conversations or conversations in general and keep that part of them, alive.
Yeah.
And they end up going on places like Amazon for their sticks instead. But you also play in bands, like down the pubs maybe, and you're a teacher. How are you doing all these things all at once?
I just have no social life. It's easy.
My friends are drums.
yeah. I from doing this, when I did this at home, to move to this point, I didn't want to make things more expensive for the end user. At no point, and I remember a guy saying this when I used to work in a drum shop. A northern guy came in, and we were chatting about prices, and he said, "It's only profit that makes things expensive," and that stuck with me. So, okay. It's how you load the price, where you feel there's a certain value to stuff, but if you overload the price on things, people aren't going to buy from you. So it's great having all this stuff here, but if I have to load the price of every snare drum by another £50 to pay the rent, it made no sense to me. So I'd worked in a drum shop at the point where, because I'm that old, the internet sales became the big thing, and I was sat behind the counter in a shop on a high street waiting for people to turn up every day and getting paid to do it, and that model has gone. That shop platform doesn't exist. Even the big guys over here, the big modern guys, are more moving towards appointment only. It also means you haven't suddenly got 25 people in a space that can only fit 3 because there's too many drums in it. I like the thing of having 2 or 3 people in here when they can feed off each other and go, "Have you checked out one of these?" So stuff that I wouldn't necessarily think. They're talking about music they're into, people they listen to, artists they listen to, and they go, "Well, that's that and that's that." I haven't got an encyclopedic knowledge of drummers on tracks and what they play. So that's a really nice thing. But I think the business model of having people in on appointment only allows me the freedom to go and teach and to gig and to tech and do other bits and pieces that all feeds into the pot, which means that this bit doesn't have to be that expensive. Moving in here, I was very lucky that I look after a few guys and I store their drums for them. That took the pressure off the rent a little bit for me. It also builds that community thing that they'll come and hang out. I had a lad in here the other day that was his dad was coming to buy him a kit. They were checking out a Ludwig Classic maple kit and a 402 snare, and Freddie Sheed walks in because Freddie's got a storage room here. We hang out all the time. And Freddie sat behind the kit and played it. The kid was blown away by hearing this kit that he's about to spend a big chunk of money on being played by one of the best session players in the UK at the minute, who then went, "Yeah, I had one of these, and I recorded this album on it, and I recorded that album on it before I signed to Gretsch."
That is mental.
So this kid's gone, "Okay, I'm dropping a chunk," or his dad's going, "I'm dropping a chunk of money, but this pro player's just come in and told me how good this kit is." Not the sales guy in the hoodie with the Ludwig logo on it. Someone's come in that's actually out there in the profession that's doing it. So the whole thing of moving here, it was never a till, it was never a point of sale thing. It was the sofa, it was the coffee machine, it's the drum hang, it's that feeding off each other, but it's doing it in a way that makes it financially viable for everyone. Because I'm not here to tear the arse out of the market and make loads of money to buy American cars. I'd like to. Four's not enough. But it's that thing of just having that community side of it. It's having people that will feed off each other, that will explain stuff. I go out and teach, and you're talking to kids, and then it's like, "But you were out doing that last week, and you were out doing, and I want to learn this song, and you just told me that the drums on that song are drums that you sold to the band, and it's a big famous band." It's like, it's a crazy world that I live in, where one week I'm doing that, and the next week I'm teaching in a school, and the next week I might be teching somewhere, or I'm in here hoovering the carpet.
Yeah, because another thing that you do is rent out the drums as well, isn't it?
I do a bit of hire stuff as well for studios and for artists.
Are you like cleaning them, tuning them, or just giving them off to studios?
Occasionally I'll take a kit out and you go and set you tune it up here, you put fresh heads on it, get it sounding amazing, take it to the studio, get it out of the van, down into wherever they're going to set it up, hit the tom, and one of the springs has moved in the lugs. So you then spend the next 3 hours in the car park because the studio's about to close, packing out the lugs with bits of sound foam or stuff like that. So now I make sure everything's prepped, everything's done, ready to go. I did a big hire with Sam Fender this time last year, and he recorded a new album. I think was it British Grove? So he was in there for 4 months for a residency, and they wanted to hire the drums. So I found a kit. I hadn't actually got the kit that he wanted here. Amazingly, I've got 150 odd kits, and I hadn't got the one in the exact size that he wanted. So I went and sourced one, Got it here, changed all the heads, packed all the lugs out, got a hardware set ready to go, rug, throne, couple of snares, another bass drum option, dropped it down in the studio, and they kept it there for about 4 months in the end. Which is, it doesn't happen very often like that because everyone's penny pinching all the way through. But
So can I rent some drums?
yeah, for a week. Can we track the drums in one day and can I give them back to you?
Yeah.
And can I just pay for half the day? You know, that kind of thing. But I did it with the 1975s when they recorded an album down at Real World. They'd end up taking 5 kits, and I went down and teched for a day, setting them up where they wanted them. And halfway through, George had fallen in love with something that I can't tell you what it was because obviously he's endorsed, but it was an old vintage kit, and he fell in love with that. And some of the cymbals I took down, he straight away put them in a bag ready to go.
Yeah.
So that rental thing can lead on to sales. It can lead on to... I mean, his favourite snare drums are 60s Acrolite with a modern strainer that he bought off me, and he loved it so much. He's like, I think I need another 5.
Amazing.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Who doesn't
Thank you
need
so
5
much.
Acrolites? Yeah.
The cymbals, the vintage cymbals as well. Is that a scary thing? Because are they once they're cracked, like they're done for?
Yeah, pretty
Not
much.
gone
There
for.
are guys that repair them. There are guys that do that sort of stuff on them. It's, as with everything, it's trying to buy the best condition you can.
Yeah.
If you buy something that's got a couple of nicks and marks in it, you've got to make the price reflect what it is in case, first gig in, it cracks and it splits. But a lot of the stuff that I buy in, I've got a huge collection of old 50s A's that came from one guy that passed away last year, but he was known as the guy. So I dropped a huge chunk of money just to have this big stack of old 50s and early 60s Zildjians.
That's mental.
But
How do
then-
they last that long? Every cymbal that's ever come into my space has been like, please don't do it to me. And I'm like, you've got 3 months, mate.
I wonder whether the old stuff was better built. I think there was
Yeah.
better... Certainly with the drums, that they spent longer harvesting the woods in the first place. You talk to people in the construction industry now, and you look
Yeah.
at the difference in the quality of the materials that are out there. Everything's pressured now. Everything's fast grown and
Yeah.
pressure treated. And whereas the stuff back then, I think even the cymbals, I think there's less. I think there was more time spent perfecting the alloys and getting those things right. I'm not saying that the production quality was better because I don't think it is, but I think the actual raw materials
Yeah.
in the first place were better then.
That is excellent.
So we've got a Spotify playlist, 3 songs. They can be songs that you think like, the vintage drums are good on that, or just 3 like guilty pleasure songs, whatever you want to go with it.
Okay, it's a funny thing. When I was growing up, my dad was massively into country music, but the classic stuff. And I used to, me and my older brother used to just take the mickey out of him for it. I've turned into my dad on that side of things. All I listen to is country music. I can't. So it's a lot of Luke Combs. It's a lot of those sort of guys. Darius Rucker, that modern country stuff that I listen to now. And
Bit of
just
Stapleton.
I love a bit of
With
Chris
the
Stapleton. I
Derek
was
Mixon?
gutted I
I
didn't go
love
and see
Derek
him. I
Mixon
was
as well, didn't he?
so disappointed. I didn't go. He was in London last week, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't make it. But yeah, I would say most of my playlist is country stuff, and not necessarily because of the drums in it, just because pickup trucks, unrequited love.
Yeah.
And
It feels right
yeah,
for your soul.
that's it. I'm
Yeah.
a lost American over here, I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Any specific songs you like? I said that like I was scared, but I knew what I was doing.
Well, you're feeding off my fear.
Fear
here.
is an illusion.
We're all scared.
Fear is an illusion.
No, I wouldn't say there is.
Yeah.
I would. I'm one of those guys. I'll stick iTunes on in the car, and
Yeah.
I'll just stick a Rising American thing on, and just. It's,
Who are
it's
those? Who are those 3 artists you mentioned? A couple of artists you mentioned.
Luke Combs, definitely.
Luke Combs.
Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
Darius Rucker. Those are kind of the top 3 guys for me.
We'll find our 3 favourite songs from
Okay.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
We'll
slap
put
them
them
in.
Favourite vintage kit ever? Favourite vintage thing ever? The Crown Jewels.
See, so I've had 2 of the Birdland kits in the 50s Birdland kits, which are the Gretsch green and gold hardware, super rare. I bought a
This is the one up here that keeps staring at me.
That's the reproduction version. That's
Right.
that's the 125th anniversary.
Right.
The original ones were released in the 50s, and they were. I think the first one was built for the Birdland Club, because you think jazz club, you think small sizes. It was actually a 22, 13, 16, but they nitrous cellulose painted over wrap. So it's actually a paint over a wrapped finish. So they wrapped the drums first because they didn't want to try and get the wood to absolutely perfect
Right,
painting
just
conditions.
right.
Yeah. So they were very fragile. They tended to fracture out, and the paint would crack on craze on them. I bought a copper mist off a guy just south of Dartford during lockdown. I went down and picked this kit up off of him, and for me, hands down, that is one of the. So the 3 rare finishes would be the Cadillac Green, Copper Mist, and the Cameo Coral. I've never seen a Cameo Coral, but I've had 2 Copper Mist through, and they're just the most exquisite looking ginger again. It's got that.
I was about
orange
to say,
tinge.
being ginger, I'm just
Yeah.
going to call myself the Copper Mist.
I
from
think
now
it's.
on.
I think it might be a just for men colour. I might need to
Yeah.
get it for the beard soon. Get rid of some of this white.
I feel like I'm going to be looking at drums differently after this.
Yeah,
I'm
seeing which one's
just going to
ginger.
keep emailing you. Is this good?
Is this orange enough? Yeah.
Right, well, to round up, I've got another game.
Go on
Excellent.
then.
There is a prize for this game. Welcome. There will be a theme song. It'll probably be something like this. It's called Rusty's Roundups.
Rusty's Roundups. Round them up.
Works a lot like Family Fortunes. I've reached out to 10 random people and asked them for 5 things that go rusty.
Okay.
You're each going to have 3 guesses each. You're going to guess something that goes rusty. If it's on the board, you'll score the points.
Okay.
On your last go, if you say something that's not on the board, you get a second go to score some points. Good luck. We'll start with you, Mark. Name something that goes rusty.
It's going to have to be a car, isn't it?
You have scored one of the highest scoring items
Oh, there we
on the
go.
board. Car, it's 5 points.
Look at that.
I'm on the back foot already.
Don't look at my list.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm looking into your eyes.
Alex, name something that's on the board. Something that goes rusty.
Something goes rusty. Just want to go like Titanic. Is that rusty?
I'm having a look. I'm not seeing Titanic or boat, unfortunately, so it's a 0 for you.
Oh.
You are behind. Mark, name something
Something else
that goes rusty.
rusty.
There's a lot on the list.
Brilliant.
There's some really good ones as well.
You generally can't think of anything.
Search your soul.
Yeah, we can edit this to make it seem real quick.
Might have to.
No. I like the
You like the
suspense.
pressure
I'm going to
and
put
the-
like didum 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 didum
that,
didum
yeah.
rust didum 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 didum.
I really genuinely can't think of anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, these 10 people could think of a lot.
Yeah, they've done well.
There's some stuff. There's one thing on here that makes no sense, and afterwards I'll tell you what it is, and we'll see if you can make sense of it. Because
Let's
I can't.
go with a sign, a rusty sign.
Oh, that's good.
I like it, and I can very like
But it's not
Americana.
there.
Sign is not on there, but you're still ahead with 5. Alex, your second go. Name something that goes rusty.
Something that goes rusty.
You've had so long to think about this, by the way.
I know.
You should have been disengaged with what we were talking
Like
about.
an old coin.
Oh.
Oh,
Penny is on there. I'm going to give you
Rusty
penny.
penny,
Yeah, I
But it's a low scorer. It's a 1.
fuck's sake.
Only one person said penny. Marcus, your last go.
My last go.
If you name something that's not on the list, you get a backup go.
Okay.
Now remember, there's a bag of Tang Fastics on the go. Is it Tang
This is
Fastics, Joe?
serious, yeah.
It's Tang Fastics. Fresh.
Tools.
You have scored another high point.
Have I? Ooh.
It's a 4.
It's because you mentioned the Tang Fastic, you see. I'm serious now. Now
Now,
I know there's a prize. And it's
Tools
worth
has got a
having.
note next to it from one of my brothers, who's a plumber, and it says Tools, spanners rust in the same atmosphere as chlorine.
Wow.
So we're all learning.
Bit of
Every day's a
science
school
today as
day.
well. There we go.
Alex, it's your last go.
It's my hopes and dreams that are rusting here.
I'll tell you, there's no 9 pointers on the board, so you've already lost. But this is
okay.
just for fun.
A rusty old nail.
It's a high score. It's a 4.
Put that in my coffin.
There we
I'm
go.
dead.
It's 4-9. Mark, well done. You've won
Amazing.
Rusty's Roundups.
Thank you very much.
Bag of Fantastics. And that was Rusty's Roundups. Rusty's Roundups. Boom. Bow. Okay.
Is that what we end on?
I feel like that's a good
I think it
end
is, yeah.
place. Would you like to say anything about the glory of drum shops?
No.
Fantastic.
There is no glory. You've been here. There's no glory.
Reviews, all of
Thank
that.
you again. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
thanks
It's
for
incredible.
inviting us
Been wicked.
down.
I'm going to come back weekly. Yeah.
You,
Well,
your
we're
rusty
not on live
tools.
TV, so we can do what we want now.
Yeah, it's over. Well done.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right,
quick, what was
on the list, we don't need to get this, but the weirdest thing was someone just said